NU6X, and the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable coming up. W6DQ. W6YEC checking in.
John?
You doubled there. Stand by, George. Mark, did you say something? I'm sorry.
I said we don't have John KOI in here.
I did not hear him, but you just got George, too, at the tail end of the list there, W6YEC.
W6YEC, George, and both Tim and Mark, W7ACY, WC6 Delta, I'm going to move them after the first four. So after the first four, just before Lisa and you, so they can at least hear the first four before we put them on the spot. So, okay, I think I have everybody. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, plus myself. Boy, let's see if my back holds up. But, folks, if I don't come back right away, it's because I'm pacing around the radio room trying to keep my back from tightening up too much. So, anyway, this is NU6X from beautiful Sedona, Arizona for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable, and with a pretty good-sized list. And there's a preamble, but I don't have it, so I don't remember where I put it on my computer, and so most everybody has heard it about 100 or 200 times, so I'm not going to state that. But anyway, let's see, is there anything else, Dennis, before I kick things off?
No, I think we're good to go. And you know, you were asking about Radio Shack. Archer and Science Fair was their other thing that Radio Shack had. So there you go. Take it away, Mark. W6DQ will be standing by.
Oh, Science Fair. That sounds familiar. That may have been that little thing that I was describing to you. It makes sense. Okay, folks, this is NU6X for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable. Theoretically, you're supposed to be operating a piece of equipment 1980 or prior, especially newcomers. That's not a requirement, and I don't enforce that rule, so it wouldn't make any difference either way. So this is NU6X in Sedona, Arizona. The question of the evening is going to be, what was the first kit you ever put together? It doesn't have to be ham radio. It doesn't. It can be hi-fi. It can be what was that? A heat kit, vacuum tube, voltmeter. It could be, it could be anything as long as it was a kit where you actually had to solder some wires. And so that's the topic of the evening. We got a pretty good sized group here, so let's keep things kind of on the short side, folks, if we will. We don't need to know every kit you ever built, and if you didn't build any kits, then we'll give you a break. You can just tell us what equipment you're running. So the first four, N6AF, check, followed by WB6RLC, Glenn. Then we have Chris, KI6CSA, and after that we have AK6R Bob. And then I know the two newcomers are going to be in that next group of four. Chuck, go ahead and take it away. N6AF, this is NU6X.
Oh, thanks very much for running the show, and thanks, Dennis, for getting the earlies lined up there. That's quite a list. N6AF in Emerald Hills, up above Redwood City. I'm on my Atlas 210X tonight, and got it, the output padded down a little bit and backed off and whatnot for about 450 out of the SB220 inverted V at 35 feet, 444 Delta mic. So I'll just get right to it. So 1971, I had just got my novice ticket, and I got a kit as a gift from my parents, the Heath Kit HR10B, and built that, and it actually worked, and I paired that with a Viking Adventurer that I was loaned from the school ham club, the high school ham club. And the one feature that I added to this in my novice newbieism was I used an open air knife blade switch as the antenna switch. So that was my manual TR switch. And don't ask me what the return loss was, but it worked. And I had a ball there with an inverted V, and crank that audio all the way up to just blow my ears out, much to the chagrins of my parents as I tried to work JAs on 15 meters there in the early 70s on that HR-10B. Alrighty, so that's my answer. Onward to Glenn there, WB6RLC with the damped sinusoidal call. This is N6AF.
Thank you, Chuck. N6AF, WB6RLC. Glenn here, Cathedral City. Nicksburg over from Palm Springs, where the desert hits the sand. Rig tonight, a Swan 500, no suffix, single year manufacturer only. Mike the Shure 444 up to an off-center fed dipole at 32 feet. Yeah, thanks for the comment on the call, Chuck. Yeah, every now and then somebody gets that and goes, oh man, that's really cool. So just the one they gave me in 1966 as WN6RLC. So just kept it all these years.
Really did.
And speaking of 1966 and my novice, the transmitter was mentioned this the other day was an 829B transmitter, a homebrew thing that my dad's business partner lent me. But my receiver was a Night Kit R55 receiver, and I saved my paper out money and everything else, and whatever I could cobble up, and bought that R55 receiver. I think it was a whopping $60 or something, and put that together and used it for quite a few years. Shortwave listening, ham radio, whatever I could do. So anyway, just a cool radio. Later I built a Night Kit stereo amplifier, tube type, and a ICO multiplex FM tuner. So I think that was all the kits that I built, particularly as of recently. Some homebrew stuff, but that was it. So my first one was an R55 receiver. Let's see, it's going over to Chris, if he's there. KI6 CSA WB6RLC.
NU6X the host. So the question is, what was the first kit that you ever built? The first kit doesn't have to be ham radio equipped, but the first kit that you ever built. And you had to do the soldering. Over. Kits were a thing back then, but so no kits for me. Off the list, Nancy 6 Whiskey Hotel Kilo. I was after K2LMQ. Okay, stand by a second. Okay. Who was after K2LMQ? I was following K2LMQ, fall there, N6WHK, but I didn't hear my call when the net was passed over. Okay, well, you're now inserted in that position, so N6WHK. Okay, then I'm supposed to go to Bob, AK6R. Go ahead and take it.
Yeah, AK6R here. Let's see if we're putting power out. There we go. Yeah, this is Bob, AK6R. We're in Fallbrook, about 20 miles inland from the Oceanside Yacht Club. And tonight we're running we're running the Kenwood TS-830, and that's going into the linear amplifier, which is an ACOM 1000, running about 500 watts tonight, and that's going up to the Palomar Engineers bullet antenna, which is an end-fed, off-center fed antenna, roughly 95 cents of water, and the coax itself is choked around 45 feet, so we can work all bands 80 through 6 meters. Anyway, that's the radio that we're running, and good signals from everybody tonight, nice strong signals, and I was just trying to remember, last week we started off with what we were using for our old antennas, and I think I gave you the story of trying to think here, the territory that I was making for the antennas that I had made at school. Well, at that same time, we also were using our first antennas that I had made in council, and that was an old night kit. This was about 1964, I think it was. And it was a night kit Star Roamer video receiver, and that was in conjunction with the Johnson Viking 1 transmitter, and then of course I was trying to think here, an antenna switch. Anyway, it had 2 tubes in the Star Roamer, and that worked for about 2 weeks, and then right after that we got the night kit R100 transceiver in its place, and it had about 10 tubes in it. Took me about 3 weeks to make it, and we used that for about the next year. When I had my novice license and my technician license, we got those both at the same time. Our early call was Whiskey Novice 6 Quebec Fox Alpha QFA, and in fact to this date nobody has taken that call sign ever again. Anyway, it was fun, and we made a lot of different contacts all around the world as a novice, and that's how I learned CW, and now I remember CW. Anyway, that's our story, and it won't take too long, but we'll turn it back to you, and thanks for taking the earlies, Dennis, and back to you, NU6X to take it from AK6R.
So, Bob, what year did you get your novice license?
1963.
To figure out, because I have mine was WN6UOE, which should have been theoretically after yours, but I thought I got my novice license in '61, but maybe I'm wrong. But definitely it was WN6UOE. Okay, fantastic. So I was expecting to hear some AT1s, and I haven't heard any hit AT1s yet, but we still have a long list. So the next 4 is going to be 2 newcomers, W7ACY, Tim, and then Tim, you'll give it to Mark, WC6 Delta, then it goes to Lisa, KF6QNG, and then to Dennis, W6DQ, and then Dennis back to me. And so go ahead and Tim, take it, W7ACY, and if you ever build a kit, what was your first kit? And then send it to the WC6D after that. Go ahead and take it, Tim.
Alrighty, the call is Whiskey 7 Alpha Sierra Yankee, Whiskey 7 Alpha Sierra Yankee. And the first kit I ever built is I helped my dad build a 6-meter RC controller. It was one push was up, 2 pushes were down on one button, and 1 push on the other button was right, and 2 pushes were left. And we built a 6-meter. He was a ham as well. And we built an RC controller for a RC glider that we used to fly out at Dillon Beach, Bodega Bay area, back in the early 80s. I don't have much more for the net. I get up early and go to work early, and my eyes are getting heavy. So I will pass it over to, I believe it was WC6D, but I think he cleared out. I think he stepped away. So if he doesn't pick it up, Net Control pick it up. Whiskey 7 Alpha Sierra Yankee, over to Net Control.
Whiskey Charlie 6 Delta's here.
Go ahead and take it, Mark.
Okay, Whiskey Charlie 6 Delta, Mark in Fallon, Nevada. Okay, well, I've got a lot of vintage equipment that I didn't put one on for the first time tonight, so I'll, if I check in again, I'll use the vintage equipment there. And my first kit was iambic keyer from Heathkit, Heathkit 1410 iambic keyer, and that would probably be my first kit there, really, a real kit. So, okay, but when I was in electronics school at the junior college, we had to build a AM radio in 3 stages with the power supply, amplifier, and the tuner. So actually that was more of a, it wasn't really a kit, it was more of a lesson there how to put the radio together. So anyways, that's where it's at there. So okay, I'm going to say 73s on this one for tonight. So thank you for letting me get in. I missed the call on the next station, so you'll have to pick him up for me there. Whiskey Charlie 6 Delta, 73s for this evening.
Welcome, Mark. Glad to have you. And it goes to Lisa. I'll pick it up, Lisa.
Okay. Got it? Thank you, Mark, for hosting this evening. Thank you, Dennis, for taking the earlies. Well, my first kit was the Ramsey Learn to Solder kit that Dennis got. And he kind of mentored me and showed me how to do it, and I did it. It's really a super, super basic kit, obviously, but it's just basically to make sure that the solder connections are tight, and then it makes the connection so the lights blink, and I think it makes some kind of noise.
Yeah, it makes noise. Yeah, it's not
anyway, and the kit that I built was a 18006 Crossfire.
That's the indicator for radio source.
It's the, okay, what Dennis just said.
Tuning indicator for radio.
Okay. Anyway, that he did have to help me with some things because the kit was so old. Yeah, we didn't take solder, so he had to desolder it and work on it a little bit to get it to straight. But anyway, so someday maybe that'll be on the air. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, so over to Dennis, W60Q from KF62NG.
All right, thank you, Lisa. And yeah, you did a great job on those. Good work. You learned fast, and that was pretty cool. Mark, hey, KF6QNG, W60Q here, Dennis and Inyokern, where it's currently windy. Mark, yeah, great question. Yeah, we talked about this last week, and of course, now you made a distinction suddenly that said that it had to be soldered. My first kit was not a solder kit. But I got to tell you, it was in 1957. I was probably about 5 years old, maybe 58, 6 years old. It was a Remco crystal radio kit, and that was held together with screws. You know, you'd basically twist the wires together and screw them down to a plastic case. But that was probably around 1957, 1958. But the first soldering I did was my folks gave me. I was probably in about the 7th grade. And I was really getting interested in electronics for several years, like 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. I wanted an oscilloscope. So they got me, we found a used Heathkit 07 scope at one of our local electronics stores. And I got that, but I found something else to go with it, which is the Heathkit F2, which is the oscilloscope. They call it a trainer. So it was a little chassis with little clip-in parts. You had to solder the thing together. You had to solder the parts, the clips on the parts. I remember doing all of that. Like I said, I was about, 12 years old or something. I was not that old. And put all that thing together and learned about oscilloscopes and all that. I've still got all the stuff, which is kind of remarkable. And you know, Mark, we were talking about the electronic project kits, and I was thinking we were talking about science fair and Archer kits. I had one of those about the same time I got the oscilloscope. I got one of those kits from it was made by General Electric, and it was all about solid state electronics. So it was had a bunch of transistorized projects that you put together on it. It was like a piece of particle board, perf board that you could use in your workshop for hanging tools. I can't think what you call that stuff, but anyway, that type of perf board, and it had little spring clips on it. You just stick the parts in there, and you build. There was things like an AM receiver and stuff like that you built. So I had that probably about the same time. So yeah, I did a lot of that stuff back in those days as a youngster. But after that, I've lost count of how many Heathkits I've assembled. It's dozens and dozens and dozens of them. So anyway, Mark, hey, great questions. Thank you for hosting this evening. And we got a great list here. A lot of stations on tonight. So this is really cool. So back over to you, Mark. NU6X is the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable W6DQ.
Yeah. So who was the manufacturer or whatever of the perf board kit that you were talking about?
Of all things, it was General Electric.
Okay, General Electric. I'm going to search for that, but that sounds exactly what I started out with, and yeah, it was all transistorized, no tubes, and probably a little 9-volt battery or a 1.5-volt battery on it or something like that. I built all sorts of things, but I think I built the Heathkit OM2 oscilloscope prior to that, and that was because Radio Shack somebody had a used Radio Shack oscilloscope for sale, like $20, something like that. I was working hard at my paper route, saving my nickels and dimes so that I could buy that oscilloscope. And then when I went to go finally show my father I had the money, and he went to go order the oscilloscope, and it was no longer available. And so that's when I built what I believe is an OM2 Heathkit oscilloscope, which was well over twice as much money, but he felt so sorry for me that he helped out with that. So that's my story. This is NU6X for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, and we'll pick up the next 4. We have quite a list here. So W6WUH, Larry, send it to Andy, KD6TKX. Good to hear you, Andy. Then to Ron, K2RP, and then to Vaughn, K6ZTA, and then send it back to me after you're done, Vaughn. This is NU6X. Take it away, Larry.
All right, very good. Good to hear you on tonight, Mark. W6WUH, Larry. Well, my first kit was a Heathkit AR3 receiver. It was Christmas of 1959. I opened up a package under the Christmas tree, and there was the Heathkit AR3 receiver, ground coverage receiver kit.
So I immediately went and holed up in my bedroom to assemble this thing. Using my Unger wood-burning tool with the soldering tip on it, chisel bit tip at least a quarter of an inch wide. And proceeded to try to build this thing. I was 12 years old, and it just became a marathon. A couple of days there in the bedroom trying to put this thing together, and with very, very minimal soldering knowledge. And I did completely assemble the thing. It did make a little smoke. It did. A little noise came out of the speaker once, and that was all it ever did. And of course, I had no means to or knowledge to troubleshoot or repair the thing. So it sat around, and it was on the shelf for a long time, but I could never make it work. Did I have the presence of mind to take the tubes down to the supermarket where they had a test of yourself test the tubes? I don't. God knows what mistakes I made, but that was my first kit, and it was an utter failure. I seem to remember building a tiny little post-practice oscillator using a CK722 transistor. And, it was some kind of perf board thing. I think maybe it was a very crummy printed circuit board, but I think it was a perf board kind of a thing. And I think it might have been a little kit that was in a plastic bag that you bought off a rack for $1. I might have bought that at Zach Electronics around that same period, 1959 or 1960. And I do remember making that thing, and it did work. But where it came from, if it was a polyfax or where it came from, and how I came to have it, I don't know, but I do know that I made it. So that's my story. Over to you, Andy. KD6TKX, W6WU.
W6WH in the group. This is KD6TKX. Larry, breaking my heart there, man. I was hoping for the happy ending, but it never came, so oh well. This is Andy, call sign Kilo Delta 6 Tango Kilo X-Ray. I'm located at Curry Mountain, California, which is about 80 miles southwest of Fresno. And the first kit I ever built was I never built a kit, so I'm just going to enjoy the stories tonight. The rig I'm running tonight is a 1980. Just made it in under the wire. Good thing that Mark's not keeping us to that, but I did squeak by. It's a Sunair GSB 900DX, kind of a military transceiver, but it was also available to civilians to purchase. So I call it the Wild One because Marlon Brando had a GSB 900DX. He bought brand new, I think with an amplifier as well, and had it shipped down to the Tahiti where he lived. So, it's not always that you can come up with a good Marlon Brando segue on a ham radio net, but I think I just pulled it off almost anyways. One and done for me tonight, but I'll be listening. Looking forward to hearing the stories. And on to you, Ron. K2RP in the group. This is KD6TKX.
Okay, thanks. You got Ron here, K2RP and Encinitas. I've got one of my all-time favorite rigs back into position after a long time. We got the KWM2 and the 30L1 amp with a G5RV. Everybody sounds great. I'm not sure which one was my first. I remember my first big project was a Heathkit SB303 and 401. And those were big projects. I mean, hours and hours and hours to do. But I've been a ham. That was 1970 or 71. I've been a ham since 59. So I've been fiddling around with things, but I'm not one to buy new equipment. That was my first brand new ham rig of all time. And now we're 50 some odd years later. First of all, I still have them, and they still are mostly working. I got to do something to the transmitter, but the receiver's as solid as could be. And that was one interesting thing. And I bought a little Daegu G90 about 2 years ago. So I was trying to think, as far as main equipment, receivers and transmitters and transceivers and amplifiers. As far as I can remember, in those intervening years from 1970 till a couple years ago, that was my next brand new ham rig. I don't think I've ever bought anything new. You know, I always say the last thing I got new was my first wife, and look how that turned out. So that's a little sideline, but that was the first. I think the first rig I ever made. I seem to remember making a VTVM, but I think that was later. Okay, over to Vaughn. K6 ZTA, K2RP.
Barely hear Vaughn, but it goes to me, and the host says NU66 tonight. And sorry, Vaughn, you're right at my noise level. I could barely hear you, except that when you were finishing up. Okay, excellent. So the Heathkit AR3. I got to go back to Heathkit manuals or Heathkit catalogs online and see all this stuff. Okay, so we're going to pick up the next four. First of all, my friend Paul in Kingman, Arizona. We haven't talked in a while. K2LMQ. Then after you're done, it goes to N6WHK. N6WHK. Then send it to K6CTW, K6CTW Ken. And then we're going to hope that he's here will be WI6R, Dave. Whiskey Italy 6 Romeo, Dave. And then Dave, it'll go to me if you're there. So, let's see where we're at. So, Paul, K2LMQ, how are things in beautiful Kingman, Arizona?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for taking the net. And Dennis, thank you for taking the earlies. This has been great. This is, boy, does this bring back memories. This is Paul, K2LMQ in Kingman, Arizona. Okay, and like you guys were waiting on some rain, we've had less than a third of an inch in the last year, and we're still waiting on it here. And Mark, before I forget, you mentioned the AT1s. It was, I had one as my first transmitter, but it was built by someone else, and it came to me through Adirondack Radio Supply. If any of you back easters remember them from the 50s, that would have been in 1955 when I was licensed. And but that was not the story. Tonight we're discussing the kits we built. Prior to that, I built some kind of a regen receiver. I don't remember if it was a night kit or an Lafayette or whatever it was, but and I honestly don't remember if it ever worked, but it would surprise me if it didn't. So that was a story, but the first, I built odds and ends, little transmitters and stuff, but the first kit I actually built was in the mid-60s when the SB220 came out, and I said, why not? So I ordered the SB220 and built it, and it said it should take 20 hours to build it. Well, it took me 33 hours because I just was just paranoid about everything on it. But when I got it done, it worked. And it worked. I'm on that tonight. I'm on the Swan 175 with the SB220. And I got out here in 2000 and Mark NU6X, and it's great to hear you, Mark, rebuild it, and it's been running beautiful ever since. That is basically my story here. Well, let's see. I have a couple of comments here. Just give me a second here. Dennis, what a pleasant surprise to hear you also. And glad you're back. And Mark, of course, wonderful. And we have a lot to catch up on. We should do a phone call or get together or something. And that is the story here. So it goes to, I have it written down here. It goes to Phil, N6WHK. Go ahead, Phil. This is Paul, K2LMQ.
Here's the end of the list. Okay, K2LMQ. I would have stopped over for Skip there. November 6th, Whiskey Hotel Kilo. Well, the first kit I ever built, let me start over. I live about a half a mile from the Heat Kit store, and I kept hanging around there looking at different kits, and I ended up with a kit with a digital clock. It had tubes in it. Each tube had a number in it, and it would light up to the time of day. And it was a solder kit. It had to be soldered together. I had to have the tubes put in, the cabinet built, and so you got a little bit of everything doing it. I remember I got a couple of the wires crossed on the tubes, and it never did read right. And then finally we got it figured out, and where it would read the proper time. But I still have that. It's around the house here somewhere, put away, probably in the garage with a ton of other things. But that was my very first kit way back when. And so there you go on that. And I am running my Swan 350 Delta and to the Ameritron amplifier, about 500 watts of power. Everybody is sounding very, very nice. No southern moss tonight, thank goodness. So with that, K6CKW. I think I got it right now. N6WHK. Ken, K6CTW, this goes to you. N6WHK.
States, which absolutely surprised some of the daylight out of me, considering I still have one spot. You know, putting out about 5 watts to a halo antenna. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Dave. He's probably got a lot more kits in line. WI6R, Dave. This is K6 PTW. Go ahead.
Are you there, Dave? WI6R? Dennis, you want to give him a call?
Sure. WI6R, Dave, if you're there, it's your turn. This is W6DQ. I am not hearing him, so somebody else heard him as well as I did, so that was confirmed. So he must have a problem with his radio or something. So back to you, Mark, W6DQ.
Could be that he has lots of radios. But anyway, I remember when you took him on the list, but I didn't hear him at the time, and I was surprised that I didn't hear him. So who knows? Okay, all excellent. So we have a lot of people that built kits. And the digital clock, that was interesting because my second wife wanted to build something, and so I bought her the Heathkit digital clock, which she carefully put it together and soldered it, and it worked. And I have no idea where it is anymore, but yeah, that brought that memory back to me. Okay, this is NU6X for the Vinny Sideband Roundtable. I'm here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, and we're going to go to the next 4. Well, my back is still holding up here. We have W8 Victor George, W8BG George, and then it goes to Craig, I think it is, W6CAW, W6CAW, and then DJ, if he's still awake, K6RCL, DJ, it's good to hear you. It's been a long time. And DJ, after you're done, send it to Bob, W89JIB, and then Bob back to me. So go ahead and take it. W8BG, George, if you would, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Very good. NU6X, this is George, W8 Victor Golf down here in Tucson. And great net tonight. Thanks, Mark, for doing the honors. Beautiful signal down here into the old Pueblo. Well, I was tempted to say that the first kit I built was this SB220 I was on, but I had to think back a little bit when you said electronic kit, and I had to go back in time a little bit. In 1968, I went down to I was about a 12-year-old SWL. I was still about a year out from being WN8 Hotel Victor Golf. And I went to the local either Olson Electronics or Lafayette Electronics store. I can't remember which. And I paid $10 for an ICO FM wireless mic, a little off-the-shelf board kit. Set me back about $10, and I took it home and built it, not knowing any better, with a Weller 100-watt soldering gun that I borrowed from my old man, and got it all soldered together, had a little enclosure and a cheap little mic element, and I think the antenna was a piece of wire. I can't remember too good. Didn't work, so I went to my old buzzard uncle, Red, W8NFO, and he looked at what I'd done and kind of yelled at me a little bit. And we reheated a few of the solder joints, and lo and behold, it worked. So I took the little tremor capacitor and I set it to the elevator music FM station that my dad played there in his business, and went in there one day and said, "Hey, Dad," and he looked up and looked around. I was standing just outside the window there. So that was what I built. I don't know if you guys remember those. They used to advertise them in Popular Electronics. ICO had a whole bunch of little board kits that youngsters and starters could build, and some of them were pretty cute. I'm thinking late 60s, early 70s kind of thing. Anyways, that was my first kit, and started me out in the business of building kits, and we built quite a few of them over the years. Anyways, Mark will keep her brief here and move along to Craig. W6CAW to take it. W8 Victor Golf. Over to you, Craig.
WA6CAW, are you there?
I don't hear him in Santa Monica.
Okay, very good. We'll try him again later. DJ, K6RCL, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, NI6, NU6S, K6RCL, DJ here in Goleta. Well, we're doing okay. Just a lot of stuff going on family-wise, that kind of thing. The whole front, this is not a priority, but I'm able to. I actually got on at the net 40 meter net today, and I also left on tonight, so that's pretty rare. I've been on for a long, long time. Probably everybody figured I checked out, and there'd be all this hand gear for sale. You know, first $20 gets all 5 buildings. Anyway, we're doing okay. It's been challenging, let's put it that way. But we're okay. Band's pretty good. Probably aren't hearing me because usually you don't hear me too well anyway. Running about 87 watts here. So anyway, back to you. I'm going to give it to Bob. Sorry about that. So go ahead and take it, Bob. WA6JIB, WA9JIB, the helicopter man, K6RCL. K6RCL and the Roundtable, WA9JIB. Bob here in La Cañada. Hearing you just fine, DJ, 20 over in La Cañada. So you're doing a good job with whatever you got running there. Let's see. So yeah, I'm on the Yesu station tonight, Fox Tango 101 Echo. Barefoot, through an MFJ tuner up to my, I'm not quite resonant dipole, which is center fed, hangs off a 35-foot mast, inverted V configuration. Okay, so my first kit, and this would have been probably 1962, maybe 61, was an Allied night kit. The kit number was 83Y as in Yankee 261 crystal set. So, my dad got this for us being me and my brother, but actually I think he really got it for him. And my dad was a passionate radio enthusiast when he was a kid. But then, in our early years, we lived in a two-clad building on top of my grandparents, and couldn't really have an antenna, couldn't really set up a radio station. But when he and my mom bought their first and only house, about a year, which was in 1960. About a year later, a corner of the basement was cordoned off for radios. And so 61 or 62, we probably built this crystal set. And because I was first licensed in 63. And there was a while between this and getting my novice license. Anyway, so, I'm from Chicago, and Night Kid was probably within walking distance of my house. It would have been a long walk. I never did walk there, but we built a number of night kits, but this was the first one. And nice kit. The coil had a primary 20 turns, a little over 100 on the secondary. I'm looking at the manual, which is on Bauma E. Debris, and the manual shows one coil tap. I think we put 2, maybe 3 in. And it shows the detector as a general purpose crystal diode, which I do remember we used. But also I remember that we at times swapped in I guess it was a Galena crystal with a cat's whisker on it too. So we did it both ways. This whole radio had maybe a dozen parts, not counting the screws and bolts. And I remember my dad telling me to wind the coil, and I was pretty sophisticated at this point. I was 9 years old, and I think my dad is nuts. This thing doesn't even have a cord to plug into a wall socket. There's no way this thing can work. I think I've told this story before. I was starting to doubt my dad's sanity. And when we finished it, it worked, and I was utterly amazed. And I must admit, in 2025, however many years later that is, 60-something, I'm still amazed that such a thing works. So, that kit crystal set was hit number 1 for JID. And I think I turned it back to net control. NU6X, WA9JID.
Okay, very good, Bob. Great on the crystal set. That seems to be a lot of people's first electronic kit type project. DJ, if you're still there, what year were you first licensed? And then I don't think we got what your first kit was. And I know for sure that you've got to have built some. So DJ, can you answer that very quickly?
Yeah, okay. My first, well, I built 2 of them. The first one is amateur radio related, was the DX35 kit. All the other stuff I built up and scrounged myself. But that was my first real kit that I built up, the DX35. I think I was licensed end of 55, the first part of 56. I have to check my license. By the way, I still have my license canceled on it. Awful. And then I found out a year ago or so that DN6RCL has been reissued to some gal up in the Bay Area, San Francisco there. Over.
Oh, interesting. So DX35. Excellent. And so I can't remember, Paul, Ellen Peter, I think you were licensed in 1955. I'm wondering if anybody else was licensed prior to 1955. So if anybody else, as we go through the group, speak up. If not, then we know that's going to be our earliest. But it'll be interesting when George YEC was first licensed. Okay, let's pick up the next 4. This is NU6X for the Video Sideband Roundtable in beautiful Sedona, Arizona. We're going to go to N4DLA, Matthew, then send it to Roger, W6CVA, W6CVA, Roger, then it goes to, I believe, Ken, KW1NG, if I can read my own writing, KW1NG, and then it goes to Dave, WJ6W, and then Dave back to me. So Matthew, N4DLA, this is NU6X for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable.
All right, thank you, Mark. NU6X is the Vintage Sideband Roundtable from Matthew N4DLA in Orinda, California, about 15 miles east of San Francisco, where it's still 44 degrees outside the shack, running an Atlas 210X, about 50 watts power. Sure, 444 microphone, straight feeding a 75-meter dipole that used to be up a lot higher than it is now. And great stories from everyone tonight, and also welcome to Mark W6CG and Tim W7ASY over in Nevada. And everybody's signals F7 or better, so great signals. Mark here about F7 coming here into the Bay Area. And the first kit that I built was licensed in 1977, but the year before, 1976, my father drove me to the East Kit store in Rockville, Maryland, where I lived at the time, and got a East Kit HD 1416 proof bracket oscillator kit, little solid state thing, and put it together with my first soldering iron rather than a soldering gun. And it came with a little, what's now known as a K1 Amico straight key with a plastic base. Not much adjustment to it, and it worked.
So I kept the straight key, but I sold the code practice oscillator once I passed my novice test. But eventually someone gave me the old code practice oscillator here years ago, so I've got one back. So I use it to practice with a bug because I still don't want to put one of those up the air. I'm not very good at it. So there's great stories on everybody on this. It's wide ranging, not just heat kits being built, but night kits as well, and even Lafayette. So over to Roger, W6CBA, and the Vintage Sideband Roundtable from N4DLA.
Roger, W6CBA. Is anybody hearing him? W6 Charlie Victor Alpha?
Nope. No copy, Mark.
No copy, okay. And then let's send it on to Ken, KW1NG, Ken, and then you'll send it to WJ6W. By the way, signals are very, very good here in Sedona, Arizona. Nice conditions. So Ken, go ahead and take it. KW1NG, this is NU6X.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mark. And Dennis, thanks for taking the earlies this evening. This is KW1NG in Alpine. And let's see, it looks okay. Okay. All right. Well, goodness, I'm running the Swan 350 Bravo tonight into the C1000 linear, single 3500 with the Shure 444 mic out to the Delta Loop, full wave Delta Loop that's resonant here. Let's see what I have to say here. I don't remember which kit came first. This was 1968. I was in Costa Mesa, and I used to haunt the Anaheim heat kit store, kind of like Phil haunted the La Mesa one. Well, I haunted the Anaheim one. And I was had just gotten my novice, and they had an SB 300, Sugarbaker 300 receiver kit for sale. It was the last one. They had it on closeout, and I bought it and put that thing together. It took me weeks to put that together. That was a very complicated kit. My first one, and I guess like others, I got some of the solder joints wrong and all that, so it had to go back to Heathkit, and they fixed it up and got it working, and I got it back. So that was my novice receiver, 1968. But also, I don't remember if I built this before or after that. I think it was before, because I used it during that alignment. It was the ICO VTVM kit, vacuum tube voltmeter kit, and I think I used it for putting the SB300 together. Prior to that, I built some, homebrew things like a crystal radio and also a code practice oscillator, and those were just built on pieces of wood with parts that I had scrounged and put those together. But those weren't really kits, but they were fun builds also. And I noticed tonight that we have an RLC Glenn and a VJ RCL, both calls being the famous RC or LC or combination circuits. I actually have a patent claim on the RL and RC circuit. It's totally unenforceable, but I did manage to slip in a patent claim on a patent application that I did about 20 years ago. So just an interesting little side note on those damped RC and LC and RLC circuits. So very good. All right, that's it for me. And let's see, I need to pass it on to Dave. WJ6W, take it away. KW1NG.
KW1NG, WJ6W. Oh, that's pretty funny, Ken, about that. That's neat. Fun little fact there. All right, Dave here in Tarzana running the Drake R4C T4XC pair and a Collins 3001. And that's the setup here, briefly. And let's see, as far as the question tonight, well, Probably it was around 1968, like Ken, maybe 65 to 68, somewhere in there. I got interested in shortwave radio, and I was growing up on the farm back in Iowa, out in the country, and had no money. And so my dad offered to pay me $1 a day for working on the farm, doing things like planting the corn, cultivating corn, baling hay, all the summer things we do. So he paid me $1 a day, and I saved up till I got my $39.95, and I was able to order a Heathkit GR64 receiver. And I got that, put it together, and darn, it worked. It worked. I surprised myself. I was never really too impressed with the reception, the sensitivity, especially on the broadcast band. But shortwave was okay. I sure had a lot of fun with it. And it's a 4-tube radio, and I learned later. I was working on one of the old All-American 5 radios, the old broadcast radios, in the phenolic cases and stuff people had for medium wave broadcast. I worked on one of those and got familiar with the circuit, and then I looked back on the GR64 manual, and I recognized this is the same circuit. It's a All-American 5 design with 4 tubes and a solid-state power supply. And I'd long since lost this GR64. I don't know where it went. But I did find one at the TRW swap meet a number of years ago now. And I said, well, I got to have that because, that was my first radio. And I wasn't interested in ham radio at the time when I was a teenager. But when I saw this GR64, I had become a ham. And I got it going. I think it was in working condition. I don't think I had to do much. And it was about the same performance as I remember on the one I built. So anyway, that's my story on my Heathkit GR64. With that, I'll send it back to you, Mark, NU6X, WJ6W.
Yeah, very good, Dave. And you remember the year and you remember the price, $39. That's pretty amazing. Fantastic. And okay, so let me just go back. I mean, we have more on the list here, but let me just go back. W6CAW, Craig, are you in here? I'm not hearing anything. W6CBA, Roger, are you in here?
Kilowatt Delta 6 Golf November is listening from Golden, Oregon.
Can someone relay that? I heard somebody else in there. Did anybody else copy that?
The Golden, Oregon station, go ahead.
I got in late and just wanted to say hello, Mark. Six little green lights.
Yeah, Skip, I've got you on the list here. You're going to be right after George, but there was someone else in there who was just calling. Did anybody get his call?
He was from Golden, Oregon, Mark, WB6RLC.
Okay, you guys stand by. Golden, Oregon, go ahead, only.
Kilowatt Delta 6 Golf November Carter in Golden, Oregon. It's over.
It's Kilo Delta 6 Golf November in Carter in Golden, Oregon.
Okay, Kilo Delta 6 Golf November, I think, is what I got. Okay, I'm not hearing him well, but okay, I think it was Carter was the name, and you're last on the list, so we just have 3 more. That first goes to George, W6YEC, and George, I want to ask you when you were first licensed. After that, Skip, K6LGL, and then Skip, if you would send it to the Oregon station, KD6GN, I think it is, Kilo Delta 6, George November, if I have it right, somewhere in Oregon. So, George, go ahead and take it away. This is NU6X for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable.
Yeah, okay, very good, Mark. W6YEC, thanks so much for taking the net. Interesting question, and lots of great comments. Tonight we're running a TR4, driving the 30L1 amplifier, for about 600 watts or so, full wave loop up about 40 feet. And the Electro Voice 664 microphone, one of my favorites. First licensed in 1959. And 1955 is my first kit. No soldering. I don't think it was a crystal set from Western Auto. My uncle sent it to me, and that really got me interested in electronics. But I was a paper boy in probably 1958. I was delivering papers, and I came into a driveway of a gentleman whose name was Ed Mullen, W6FOC, and there he was sitting on a stool operating his 20-meter station. And because nobody mentioned it tonight, I'll bring it up. He was using an 18-watt exciter and a homebrew amplifier, 6146s and 1625 modulators. And he had a Super 12 converter mounted under the workbench there with a car radio on it, homebrew 2-element beam. And so I started asking him about ham radio, and I was a shortwave listener, and he told me what I needed to do, so I started studying. He gave me my test, and somehow passed it, and that was the beginning of it all. And my first kit, the actual kit, was the DX20, bought over there in La Mesa at the kit store there. My Paperboy money, $29.95 at that time. So that was the first kit, and then we played around with military receivers that we picked up along the way from some Elmers. And that's what got the whole thing going, Mark. And boy, oh boy, had no idea where it was gonna take us, but I've certainly enjoyed it. It's been just a blast. And just want to shout out the victory of Mark Vogel being released from Russia after 4 years in prison. He was sentenced for 14 years. Anyway, he's home, and it's a big thing tonight. So just wanted to bring his name up and praying for his family and recovery and all of that. Boy, was it good to hear DJ. I got to say that also. We've been wondering, DJ, thanks for showing up tonight. And big relief to know you're doing okay. Challenged like we all are, but doing okay. Very, very good. So that's it. Let me get it to our real senior man here who got his license a number of years before I did. And he's got a number of years on me, too. So, Skip, it's your turn. K6LGL, W6YEC.
Okay, George. Thank you. W6YEC. K6LGL. Just Santa Monica. Thanks for staying your 6X and with the sideband group. Thank you for letting me in. I got in late. That happens. Glad to hear the DJ is still with us. And DJ, there are problems we all have. But I'm glad that you're still around. Okay. Important thing is that, you overcome whatever difficulties there are and you're hanging in there. I'm glad to hear that. My first kit I built was probably around 52, 53. And one of them was a Fillmore crystal detector. I got a couple of, homebrew types using the Galena crystal. But this one included the stainless 1N35. So that was probably the first thing. That was about 52, 53, something like that. And then I went to a whole bunch of heat kits. Also, because I was interested in VHF, UHF, I needed a signal source and a good way of, let's say, checking out the resonance. So I built Delta Heathkit too that made a, at that time there were too many. I think the only other one was a Millen. I got one of those later, many years later. And then later on I got this six-step monorscope, which is still in service today. And then there's a few other things, the frequency counter or whatever. I didn't build any communications equipment. I had too much World War II stuff. The Alpha series, the Navy series, like the T-22, T-19, the BC series, and so on, and including the BC-625, VHF, UHF stuff running the 32A. Okay, that's about it from here. Glad to hear everybody there. And I don't know, my friend in Oregon will hear me. You may have to relay for me their Mark. KD2 and whatever is in Oregon. And if I got the call on, I apologize. K6 RLGL, K6 Evergreen Martin, Santa Monica.
This is Kilowatt Delta 6 Golf November. Am I transmitting now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, this is Kilowatt Delta 6 Golf November. Carter, and I've been on the air since 1957 with the novice class license first starting out. And my first station was a 6B6 crystal oscillator feeding a full-size doublet antenna at 80 meters. And the receiver was a nice kit ocean hopper receiver, which has become a collector's item now. And then I went to a Helicopters SH5 receiver, and then the most memorable receiver that I had back in the 1950s was a Amerlin HQ129X, which I enjoyed very much. And the first transmitter that I built with the 6B6 was described in an article in QSP where you took the 6B6 out of the HQ129X and made a crystal oscillator out of it. So all you needed to have was a crystal, and the rest of it was all home built. So that I think is enough for me because I may not be copying very well. I am using a Kenwood PS430 as I speak, and the microphone is an electric microphone. Later version also made by Kenwood. This is Kilowatt Delta 6 Golf November, 17 miles north of downtown Grandstand, Oregon. Thank you for having the mess. This is KD6PN, over.
Yeah, I got you, but I wasn't copying too well. What's the name? What's the name there?
My first name is Carter, like the president's last name.
Excuse me, I think it was Carter, if I heard correctly. You're right down at my noise level, and I'm getting a thumbs up on Zoom from Dennis, so I must have it right. So, okay, folks, a great night. We had a huge turnout, at least since I've been back. There's a good number. We had lots and lots of interesting first hits by everybody, and a lot of crystal radios seem to be the overwhelming, but by all sorts of different manufacturers. Many I've never even knew existed. So that's really excellent, everyone. So let's see. So someone asked me something else. I'll respond on that on email. Okay. So folks, I wanted to say 73 day everyone for the Vinny Time Band Roundtable. I don't remember who's hosting next week. Dennis. W6DQ is hosting next week. And so I'm sure that he's got his question already worked out, and we'll keep this a whole challenge. with that, this is NU6X for the Mini Sideband Roundtable, 73s to everyone.
Hey, Mark.
Yes?
Yeah, K6LK info for a real quick one.
K6LK, Bill. I haven't heard you in a long time. How are you?
Yeah, good, Mark. NU6X and K6LK. Yeah, I just wanted to know if you'd heard from Mike, K6ZSR. I haven't heard him on lately.
Yeah, I talked to him today. We have about a half-hour-long conversation, and he's doing fine. There's some health issues in the family, but he's doing fine. He's got his attendance back up. He gets on a little bit